here, so... Oh, he topped it. He cold topped it. Okay. Try to get up, yeah. Eight iron. Oh, he shanked it. Oh, look at that line, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, boy, is he on the sink.
Welcome to the Bogey Boys podcast.
We've got a special guest with us today, all the way from Dubai, Mr. Lee Crombleholme from the Winning Golf Mind. How are we, Lee?
Yeah, good, thanks, boys. Thank you. I'm not always out here, usually in the UK, but I managed to escape.
I was going to say, lucky for some. How's things out there, Lee? All right?
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, I think the COVID stuff's kind of getting ramped up out here, so everyone's kind of going to the golf course to practice. We're just prepping for Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Saudi with some of the lads. So we're kind of going golf course, hotel room, golf course, hotel room. So it's not the usual kind of Dubai experience that most people kind of envisage it as being.
Yeah.
Lots of people are doing that. Not the golfers, though. Everyone's kind of keeping their head down, to be fair, which is, sensible, because we get tested every kind of, it seems every 3.5 hours at the moment. But
Yeah. There's a few big stretch of golf.
Got to get a test to come in, and then we got to get a test to go into Abu Dhabi, and then when we get to Abu Dhabi, then we get tested again.
Oh my God. Yeah. Suppose safety is most paramount, though, isn't it? I suppose. Got to be done, hasn't it?
Yeah. Everyone gets it. It's fine. Yeah, everyone's behaving, so we all understand. So
even
we're
from
lucky to be working, to be fair.
Yeah, even from a fan's perspective as well, from our point of view, it's good for us to be able to watch the stuff because there's nothing on the telly at the moment. Live sport's a bit up and down, wherever you look at it. So the fact that we can actually sit down and watch some golf is just keeps us sane more than anything. Yeah, because we've got no golf courses open.
Gives us something to talk about as well.
100%. Yeah.
Well, these tournaments are usually great, aren't they? Especially kind of Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I mean, Abu Dhabi's and Dubai. Fantastic golf courses. They get really good fields. So yeah, it'd be something good to look forward to, I think.
Yeah, perfect. So obviously, the thanks for coming on. We appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, out your busy schedule. I know you've got a lot of players in your stable and you're working non-stop, I imagine, at the moment with everything that's going on. Obviously, for our listeners who may not be aware of yourself, Lee, do you want to introduce yourself, what you do, and who you work with, and what it is you're doing out in Dubai at the moment?
Yeah, well, I'm a sports psychologist, specialise in golf these days. My background was always golf, so when I started, I kind of diversified. Went to uni in Liverpool, did postgrad there as well. Worked in a load of different sports when you're starting out. Did a bit of teaching on the side, as in kind of academic teaching like GCSE psychology and A-level and degree level stuff. But then kind of started to narrow it back into golf because that was always the aim. Once I got quite a bit of experience under my belt, I think I finished in Liverpool in about 98. So after that, kind of doing the other work and then refocusing back in on the golf, started working with some of the county teams and all that kind of stuff, and then England women, did a few other sports for England, and then started working with kind of some Challenge Tour players, and they graduated up to kind of European Tour, and then just steadily built up until Brandon Grace had his breakthrough year where he won them 4 tournaments.
Yeah, remember, yeah.
I was working with Brandon, and kind of from that, really, that's when it kind of, how busy I was kind of started to ramp up, because obviously, when you get a player who's not won before and then he wins 4 times in the season, then he's obviously mentally tough. So then the other players take note of that, and then they want to work with you, and then it just keeps kind of snowballing. This week, this trip got Andy Sullivan, Paul Waring, Kiradek, Afi Barnrat, Justin Walters, David Law, and Stephen Brown. So there's 6 of them here. I work with Slats as well, Lee Slattery.
Yeah.
And Alejandro Canizares, Matt Baldwin. So yeah, busy.
Yeah, it sounds it.
So Lee, you know, you got Brandon Grace on his breakthrough year there, and obviously when players are coming to you, are they you? Because I would imagine that they're coming when they're at the low point, but are people coming to you to try and then take the game to winning, not actually from a bad point to try and get them better? Do you get me?
No, it's a great question, and it's very rare that someone comes to me when things are going well.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, the only person to do that, I would say, would be Matt Wallace. He came to see me a couple of years ago. I think he just won about 3 weeks before in Germany, I think. And then he came to see me because he just wanted to get better, you know, and better and better. And that's just Matt Wallace's mindset. You know, he's so driven. Yeah. We've worked together for, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 months or something like that. He won that one in Denmark, I think, when we were working together, when he nearly snuck his way into the Ryder Cup. But then after, you know, kind of after the Players' Championship, I think the following year, we stopped working because, you know, he felt like he'd learned plenty to be getting on with. Yeah. Then he went off, and some players, well, he's the only one who's kind of come because he's playing well and just wants to get better. Most players, you know, they're struggling. Yeah. I help them kind of get back on, and then sometimes they go away, and then other players, they'll kind of keep going because they just want to, you know, they like the stuff that we do. You know, people like Sully and Paul Waring, worked with them for years. Sometimes dip in and out for a little bit. So yeah, everyone's different, but generally it's when they're struggling and they want to kind of not just get confidence, but just get playing well again and enjoying it again.
And then, do you reckon that, like, obviously you're used to that, aren't you? So it doesn't really add any extra pressure that they're not actually playing well. It probably makes it a bit easier once you boost them up, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely every one of them is different. So you have to have a slightly different approach with them all. I'm kind of like hands-on. It's not just all about sitting on a couch kind of thing, and I'm not that bothered about knowing about the childhood and all that kind of stuff. I like to be on the range, on the practice green, and all that kind of stuff on the golf course. Yeah, we sit down and have a coffee and talk about things, and maybe set some goals out and look at where their mental game is at this moment and where they want it to be, and then we look at kind of some strategies and ways of getting those bits and pieces in place, and then you can build momentum from there. So it's to me, it's quite a simple process and formula kind of thing, but that's just because of experience, really. I suppose, you know, when you explain it to some people, they would think it would be very complicated working with someone's golfing mind and, you know, high performance stuff. But I love it. I enjoy it because, like I said, they're all different, and you know, we've got belief in the approach that I have, really, because it you know, it gets results. So yeah. When
you talk about your approach to what you do with players, what benefits is it to seeing somebody like you to people that don't see it? Like, how does that improve on performance?
Okay, so I mean, the four major areas that we kind of look at are self-confidence, motivation, dealing with pressure, you know, those kind of things, and focus, you know. So that's a big umbrella kind of approach and term, you know, but they're the four main areas. But the way that we do it is all kinds of different angles of attack. Yeah. I kind of, a few years ago, I was actually over here with one of my mates who coaches Mike Walker, you know, coaches Fitzy and Kiradek and, you know, people like that. Won the Masters with Danny Willett, you know, great coach, and he's good pals with Professor Steve Peters, who does the chimp model, you know, the chimp paradox.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever come
I've read
across
that. Yeah, the chimp paradox.
Yeah, it's really good book. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
And what Mike sat having a beer with Mike, and he said, you know, have you got like a framework kind of thing that you work around? I'm going back quite a few years now. I said, no, I've got it in here, but, I've never actually written it down. He said, well, I think it'd be a good idea for you to write it down. And I started thinking over the next few months. And anyway, came up with, time went by, I came up with like this 3-level kind of framework. It's very loose framework, but like level 3 would be the processes. So it's like your mental pre-shot routines, practice drills, things that players can do in course management. So it's like the processes and the behaviors, like good body language and stuff like that. So there's a big list of things there. Under that, on level 2, under the process level, I called it the attitude level. So in that, it's about, the attitude that a player brings to practice and the golf course and life as well, because we always kind of meld it over into life as well.
Yeah.
And in that, we have a thing what we call motivational orientation, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's not how much someone's motivated, it's their underlying reasons for motivation. So are they just there? Are they playing golf, especially at this level, just to, end up with a Ferrari or a private jet or, as many trophies and as they can and money in the bank? Or is it more about the kind of learning of themselves and learning about the game and appreciating the nuances of the game? So golf always wants to drag you over to this ego side, which is about the outcome and all that kind of stuff and protecting your ego and building your ego, but just because it's a numbers game. But confidence is a lot more stable over on what we call the mastery side. So, things like appreciating, managing yourself in different situations, being able to hit all the different shots and all the nuances of the game. And then also, so that's mastery versus ego, which I'm big on. And then we've got things like the quality of your thinking and your self-talk and how optimistic you are. And I've got like a 10-point feedback form that the lads do. So when the attitude is in a better place, then the processes function a lot better.
Yeah.
So your pre-shot routines are going to be better if your attitude's better. It kind of makes sense. Then below that, got what I call the biological level, which is like managing emotions. And, we bring the chimp model in, and we also put a thing called a focus band on the players' heads, which measures their brain waves and whether they're focused or consciously thinking or subconsciously thinking and all that. So, but I work from the bottom up. So we look at emotions, we look at the focus side in order to get the brain regulated, and then we look at the attitude side, and then the rest of it just kind of flows. So it's a lot of kind of sports psychs would start from the top and work down.
Yeah.
I think. And I've had a lot of players who come to me who've seen other people said, all they do is look at like practice drills and mental routines and stuff like that. But I work the other way. I work that way, and I find it works a lot better. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Because if you're focused and you've got the sort of brain clarity, then you can move on to the attitude. And then you've been doing the pre-shot routine for years anyway. Just becomes a habit, doesn't it?
Yeah. And emotionally, if you're an headbanger and you start kicking your clubs around the golf course and acting like an absolute idiot, then you're not going to have a good pre-shot routine, and you're certainly not going to make good decisions, are you? That's how I came to figure it all out anyway.
Yeah. Talk us a little bit more about them focus bands then, Lee. What are they? What is it? It's very interesting.
Bear with me.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of one of them, Mark?
Never know.
Lee's just going to get one. Yeah, get to go show us one.
Oh, this is the good shit, this boys. Okay, so if you
I need to see this.
When I grew up, I was watching Karate Kid, and I thought I always want to be like Karate Kid, so I got one of these. So right,
I see the resemblance. Got the white t-shirt and everything.
Yeah. So you switch this on. Basically, you can hit shots with it, and it Bluetooths the information. It's basically got some sensors on there, which are really sensitive voltmeters.
Ah, yeah.
So it's picking up the electrical pulses in your brain, and they go at different wavelengths, and different wavelengths represent different states. So it's really clever stuff. You know, a company in Australia came up with it, and it Bluetooths the information. So what it tells us is it tells us if your eyes are quite wide, you know, with your gaze, or whether you're focused in on a dimple on the golf ball. And so that would be quiet eye. So what we're looking for generally is when a player looks up, you know, down the fairway or down the green, rather than looking at all of the fairway, we want them to look at, you know, pick a specific point. But with that, we can actually measure it.
Wow.
So we know
No
what
way.
they're doing. And then also once they get onto the back to the ball, you want them to kind of focus on a dimple. And if they're purely focused on that dimple, then they're not going to be thinking about anything else, you know, i.e. the golf swing. So they're not going to be too technical. So they're going to be focused on kind of using the swing that they've been working on, if that makes sense, rather than trying to manipulate it.
Yeah.
So we could go from basically, the quieter your eyes are, the quieter your mind is. So you can go from zero thinking to really technical thinking, and then we find out which is optimal for that player just through a bit of trial and error. And they could shift on a day-to-day basis, but generally someone will want to sit somewhere. A lot of players, as you know, they want a swing thought, and that's fine. I've got no issue with that. But they can still have their eyes working properly. And then it also measures whether they're kind of very conscious. So that, again, they're thinking consciously, or whether they're in kind of more autopilot, which is obviously ideally where we want to be. So you can train that in as well. So it's a good bit of kit.
That's amazing, yeah.
Jason Day uses it. Justin Rose uses it. Ricky Fowler uses it. There's quite a few players who use it. I don't use it with all of my guys. You know, I don't use it with all of them, but ones that I feel as though it's necessary for. I know Tommy's used it historically. So it's just a good addition, but it gets really, you know, kind of deep down into the psyche, you know, and put that along with good emotional management skills. Then that attitude level is able to flow, and then all the processes and routines and all that kind of stuff can just be tweaked to be ideal, and you know, and then they're off and running generally.
Really looks really
all good fun.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I suppose it gives you the devil in the detail, though, doesn't it? Because you can be more specific about what you're working on then, because obviously you know whether they're this far away or whether they're close, and I suppose you can determine and be more specific with your work. But obviously, just talking about your work there, Lee, as well. I'm not sure how many amateurs that you work with at the moment, but because generally, in general terms, elite amateurs are normally at a younger age, and then you've got your day-to-day players that you'll play with who are more sort of mature from a performance perspective. Do you have to change the way that you adapt your style dependent on an age, or does the mind not work like that?
To be honest, this framework that I've created seems to be very robust, whether it's a 20 handicap golfer or, you know, like a 14-year-old kid or a multiple winning tour player. It's all a similar approach for sure. Obviously, you'd kind of, you know, the way that you would be with kids would be potentially slightly different than you would be with certain, you know, tour players. But it's the same fundamental framework that I use. I mean, I don't work with that many amateurs now. I've just got some kind of long-term amateurs that I work with, probably less than a handful, because I travel so much. It's just a time issue, mate. It's, you know, it's just hard to do that. But I've got another lad who works with me called Tom King, who we've worked together for about 5 years. And he's just from Oswestry, so he's not too far from the office, which is at Highley Golf Club, just in like North near Warrington, that kind of area.
I know that.
That's where the office is. He works more with like the good amateurs who come to see us.
Yeah.
He's got 3 tour players as well. He's coming out to Dubai in a week and a bit. But yeah, he kind of looks after those because he doesn't travel as much as myself at the moment. I'm sure that'll change very soon. So yeah, similar approach, to be honest, mate.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, you know, Lee, we both went to Myerscough, and for my dissertation, I done the benefits of having a sports psychologist at a golf club, and like I was a bit lazy with it, so I just fudged the results and like blagged that I spoke to members and blagged that I spoke to a psychologist. But looking back now, they're a bit more mature. I'm actually that actual study that I would have done probably could have come up with some good benefits, because if there's just one that was on site all the time and every member had access, surely it's going to help everyone's game, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. But people still don't. People still don't. You know, I wouldn't say it's a stigma these days, but people don't like admitting that they can improve the mental game, and it should be perceived as a strength.
Yeah.
That you actually realise that you can just improve your focus, because it's quite simple to do. I mean, we hardly see any of the members at Hyde Lake. And I actually started out doing this. My goal initially was just to get people to enjoy the game, because I stopped enjoying the game. I played college golf out in the States and, on a scholarship and did all that kind of side. And I stopped enjoying it. And my goal initially was to just work with club players and get them to enjoy it again. But then obviously, things kind of just escalated over the years.
Yeah.
And I soon realised there was no money in working with the club players and trying to make them to enjoy it. Let the tour players. I've got a mortgage to pay it all out.
Of course,
family to provide for. But yeah, I mean, I used to do a load of talks at golf clubs. They were really popular. You get 100 people sat in a golf club, sat around for a kind of hour and a half. When you open it up for questions at the end, I used to do like 45-minute talk, have a little break, and then open it up for questions. And some places you're there for another hour and a half answering questions. People were so interested.
Yeah.
And like you go into a golf club bar and you go, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like a golf psychologist. Like, "Oh, I need to have a word with you."
Yeah.
And then they'd never do anything about it. So it's like, all right, okay, maybe it's starting to gain momentum. There's loads of good books out there, isn't there? And a lot of the players starting to talk a lot more about using kind of a sports psychologist, and it's not seen as a stigma anymore. So, in all sports, there's a lot of it in football, we don't really hear about. There's massive in tennis. A lot of the sports is, there's a lot of sports psychology in there, but we all know that we can be better.
Yeah.
Don't we? As golfers, you lads, I'm sure that you can improve your focus. You could certainly improve your confidence. Dealing with pressure. Them last kind of 6 holes, if you've got a good medal round going, we all start to feel a little bit like that. And learning to manage that, and there is ways of doing it.
Is it a problem that I'm feeling like that for the whole 18 holes? I don't know what's that called.
You probably need a bevy.
Yeah, I think so.
Or another one.
Definitely, yeah.
But Lee, do you know what you're saying there? The club golfer probably doesn't want to invest money into his mental game, because if you look at a club golfer, they get lessons to hit the driver miles, but then they probably wouldn't get a putting lesson, even though putting is probably, you do it double the amount of times as hitting your driver. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone just wants to hit it far, but everyone, a lot of club players, they just think, well, the easiest way to hit it further is to buy the latest driver, and then they soon realise that doesn't happen once the novelty of that wears off. So there has to be another kind of approach, for doing it. I mean, I've got a website, that's got some lessons on there. I'm just in the process of revamping it all, just completely redoing it all from scratch. So it's finding the time to kind of get it all together. But it's going to be geared towards club players. So once that comes out, I mean, there's some examples actually. If you go on like winninggolfmind.com/free stuff, you know, you put your email address in and then you get a link to, I think there's about 6 videos I put on there, which are just like based around chipping. Because a lot of amateurs struggle with the chipping, especially in the UK, because it's like wet all the bloody time. But there's some,
Here's your best mate there.
some mental pre-shot routine stuff on your chipping within that /free stuff. And you know, and a couple of practice drills and a couple of bits and bobs. And I'm gonna, you know, once I've edited some of the other videos, I'm gonna put a couple more up as well. And then obviously once this new website's up and running, then everyone will get emailed, you know, with a bit more information about it. So it's, you know, if we can get the message across that way, rather than kind of people coming to see myself or Tom or, you know, anyone else, then, you know, the whole point of it is for people to enjoy the game of golf more, because we all love it. You know, we love the bloody game, but it's such a frustrating game at times. You know, 100%. And if we can enjoy it more, then it's better, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
$1,000,000%.
Obviously, can we
Kev's going to start going in on the short game now, isn't he? So what do you do?
Yeah. Any tips for me? Yeah.
I'm actually on the free stuff now.
So you've mentioned earlier that obviously you work with a number of top European tour players. Are we okay to like obviously just discuss some examples there? So one thing that comes to mind straight away is a couple of weeks back when they were doing a stretch in Dubai. Obviously Andy Sullivan shot 11 under first round, was leading, and then obviously didn't close it out. So how does something like that impact a player of his stats? Obviously won plenty of times in the European Tour, and he's leading the whole way through, and then doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into complete details.
No,
but obviously he's disappointed. You know, he's obviously disappointed. I mean, there was other factors at work on that week, but you know, just because you don't close a tournament out, you know, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. But there's so many good players. Yeah, you know, and you know the round of golf that the lad who won, you know, shot in that final round was fantastic. You know, it was really good, and yeah, he was disappointed, Sully, but you know, he then went on to finish 10th. You know, the week after in the final series, sorry, in the final event. So you know, he got over it quick.
That's it. Yeah. So does that come down to the work that you've done for him to pick himself up so quickly to then continue to perform because he believes he can do that, whereas some other golfers may be in the same position as that, but then that affects them for 2-3 weeks and it might take them months to get over it. So
yeah, it's totally down to me, that. Yeah.
All your fault.
No, he's world class.
Yeah, he is world class. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, you know, in any kind of situation like that, no matter who it is, you know, you get to the end of the tournament and then you reflect. You talk about what was good, and you reflect constructively. You know, you don't just look at what was bad. You know, what went wrong. You know, you look at what was good as well, and then you focus on those things. And you look at what wasn't great and what we can tweak for the next week on a day-to-day basis. And you just, you know, you put it into, you know, I'm always thinking about that framework and how it works. And he knows the framework as well. And it's like, you know, when I explain it, then it's like, okay, well, maybe we can do that this week, and or maybe we don't need to change anything, which pretty much we didn't need to do.
Yeah.
From a mental point of view, going into the second week. So, you know, he's very stable right now, Sully. So you know, it was never going to be an issue. You know, there was never going to be a hit the panic button. He just never got it going on the greens, really. For other than 2 days out of those 8 competitive rounds, he had 2 good putting rounds. But you know, we've been massively addressing that over the you know, the 4 or 5 weeks that we were at home with myself and Mike Kansky, who, you know, based up at Formby Hall with Phil Kenyon.
Yeah.
You know, we've been working on it, and we're making good inroads with the putting, which is great because, you know, we could come up to the studio and we could get some proper data. Yeah. And then we could start to integrate the mental stuff in with the technical stuff, and that's, you know, you work as a team, which is fantastic. So, yeah, it wasn't, didn't need to pick him up or anything. It was just go and have a few beers on the in-between bit, and then everything's forgotten about, and then we reset,
Sounds
which we did.
Sounds like a perfect remedy, that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a member of Formula Me, Lee, and it's interesting that Sullivan works with Kansky and not Kenyon. How come that?
Phil was just like really busy. I think when he'd done stuff with Phil before, kind of a few years ago, and then kind of drifted off because Phil started going out to the States a lot, so he's kind of hard to pin down, because he's so big time. And then I'm really good mates with Phil.
Yeah.
So, and then it was, Mike was the one who was going to be, at the time when he wanted to look at his putting again, was available, and Mike's bloody world class as well. So,
yeah,
it was a bit of a no-brainer, really, because it depends on time available.
Yeah.
So it was, no problem.
It's just nice to see that people are trusting the prodigy. So if people come to see you and then you give them, is it Tom King, did you say? It's good that people might trust the understudy, do you know what I mean? It's good to see the progression, isn't it?
Trust the philosophy, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. It's totally the philosophy. And, Mike and Phil have been like that since bloody junior golf, and I know that because I played junior golf with Phil. And, so it's, obviously they're slightly different characters, but their approach to it is, I wouldn't say identical, but the foundations and the framework is absolutely there. And just for example, someone might get on with Mike more than Phil, from a personality point of view. So it would work better. And similar with myself and Tom. If Tom uses the framework, and we bounce ideas around each other, but I said to Tom when he came to see me for some advice about 5 years ago, just about his career, I said, and I offered him a kind of position, with myself. I said, I don't want a clone. I don't want a clone of me. I want you to bring in your knowledge and experience, because he was doing stuff at Leicester City in the academy. Even though he's a scratch golfer, but part of his training was doing stuff at Leicester.
Yeah.
I said, I want you to bring all of that stuff in. I could learn off you. And that's how it's worked out. We learn off each other and different experiences, and we bounce the experiences around each other. So when someone comes in as you call it, that the prodigy or whatever, it's the same. The same professionalism, and they might not quite have as much experience, but they're on a fast track to getting that experience. And someone like Mike Kansky is, he works with Matt Wallace and Matthias Schwab and an absolute bunch of Paul Waring. He's doing stuff with Paul. He works with a load of quality players. Yeah. So I've got no qualms with that.
No, it's just when you see Phil in and around the tour, and then you see like Andy Sullivan mentioning yourself, and then someone come to you and want you, and then you can give them Tom. It's just nice that they're going to trust who you're going to give them to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Well, it's like you wouldn't have someone working alongside you who you didn't have complete faith in. So if they're no good and they're going to bring the name of the brand down, then you wouldn't have them on side, would you? So
yes, Lee, like you said at the beginning there, the idea of the podcast that we're putting out there with the professional route that we've done, speaking to professional golfers, is just to try and provide a bit of insight that amateurs wouldn't normally get. So what advice would you give to an amateur who's obviously wanting to take that professional route, but they don't actually work with a mind coach at the moment? Like, what are the benefits of, obviously, given what you've already said as well, but what are the additional benefits of picking that up at an early age, and what that would do for the game moving forward before they got to the professional ranks?
Yeah, I think the younger they are, once you can get some of these kind of, it's not just techniques, it's like an approach, it's like an attitude, and the kind of get the framework in place at a young age, then it's in. It's like the learning to ride a bike thing, and they stop going into bad habits, because you know what it's like. I don't know. I'm sure you two played golf when you were juniors.
Yeah.
And you've not got a care in the world. All you want to do is play good shots. And if you have a crap shot, then it doesn't matter. You just go and play the next one. And so many players, good players, like tour players, will come to me and go, I want to play golf like when I was a junior again, and that's the kind of mindset I want. And that's kind of what we do. We kind of simplify it.
Yeah.
Is basically what we do.
Nice.
I often describe it as this: just wring the brain out, wring it out, get rid of all the crap, and then just hold on to what was actually useful and beneficial. So you're making efficiency in the mental game and getting rid of the rubbish, the interference, the noise, all those kind of things. So for a youngster to go down the kind of sports psychology route would be really beneficial, because it's, they're just bloody sponges at that age, and nipping it in the bud before they get into the bad habits. It's the same with coaching. It's exactly the same. Mental coaching, as well as technical coaching and putting coaching and strength and conditioning coaching. If you can be put on the right path, at an early age, then you're less likely to deviate off that path going forward. But if you've got someone who's like a PGA pro who's good, they obviously never too old to learn. A couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I started working with Richard Bland.
Yeah.
And Richard Bland was one of them players who's always kind of and he just keep his card, always kept his card. Sometimes went down to Challenge Tour. We did. The year that we worked together, he finished top 30 on the Order of Merit, and he'd never even sniffed that. And he was in like early to mid 40s. So it's never you're never too old to kind of learn and improve. But I would definitely say if you can get them younger, then it's going to be more beneficial for them in the long term.
Brilliant.
Getting good habit.
Yeah, brilliant.
One more thing, Lee. You said about books, good books out there. Is there any? Obviously, it's lockdown now. Everyone's got loads of time on their hands, like especially me and Mark. Any good books that you would recommend that we could read that'll take us into the season quite well?
Yeah, there's a couple of favourite ones of mine. There's obviously the Bob Rotella books.
Yeah,
they're really good. Golf is not a game of perfect. That's still a really good book, and his subsequent ones. The ones by Gio Valianti, which bloody name escapes me at the moment. Well, it's Gio, G-I-O, Valianti. If you just go on Amazon. I know his second one was called Golf Flow, I think. The first one is really, really good.
Okay.
But then there's other ones which are more kind of philosophical. So you got like Ego is the Enemy, and then you've got Stillness is the Key, which is part of the same triplicate of books by Ryan Holiday. They're good books, but are they golf specific then, or are they like life specific? They're life ones. They're like ancient Roman Stoic philosophy. Well, I know when Rory made it really popular, the Ego is the Enemy one, because he put his success a couple of years ago. He got his career going back up, down to Ego is the Enemy book by by Ryan Holiday. It's about the old Roman Stoics and the philosophies of life back then, but they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant for life as well as performance, in golf.
Yeah, when we're talking about the mental game there as well, I'd be interested to know what your opinion is on obviously social media and constantly having phone in hand. Have you got a specific opinion on that and how that impacts seeing certain things on social media that could be negative towards a certain player and what distractions they cause in line with how that impacts performance?
doesn't. Just thinking about my lads, it doesn't really come up. The kind of social media thing. I think if it does, I think they're quite thick-skinned.
Yeah.
These days we've been kind of taught to kind of learn not to take any notice of, if you've got 50,000 followers, you're going to get some helmets, aren't you? Some idiots who are going to go and have a pipe, and they're just doing it to try and create their own attention, and because because they're weak.
Yeah.
And they're using it as a way of trying to build their own ego up. At the expense of another player. And if they get a bite, then they're like, "Well, you got a bite." Well, I just tell my lads to ignore it if it does happen, which doesn't happen very often, to be fair. You should only listen to comments of someone who, negative comments of someone who you would actually take advice off. I think that's a good rule of thumb. If you wouldn't take advice off that person, then ignore it, because some people do take it more to heart than others, but it's not something that really impacts golfers that much. Not as much as kind of footy players. I would say you do get. You do hear quite a few of them getting, "Oh, I put a fiver on you, and you let me down," and blah blah blah.
That'll be me.
Just put a fiver on someone else. Then
yeah.
Trying my best here. Wasn't trying to lose you a fiver.
I know. I've just lost a couple of $100,000, so sod your fiver.
you can obviously afford it then, can't you?
That's it. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, so obviously conscious of taking up too much of your time, because I know obviously you're in Dubai at the moment. You've got plenty of lads that want your attention. So again, appreciate you coming on and speaking to us. But obviously, just before you go, I'd be interested to know like what a week on tour would look like, just for our own interest more than anything. Like what a kind of a build up to a tournament looks like on the European tour. And obviously, do you watch them hit balls and stay with them all the time, or you just on call with them? How does it work?
Depends who it is, really. At the moment, it's arrive at the golf course, take a COVID test, and you'll get stuff shoved up your nose and down your throat, and then go like that. Then you can't. I'd kind of just go onto the range, unless anyone's got something kind of specific that they want to address, maybe from the week before. So I'll definitely get round everyone on the first day, which would be a Monday or a Tuesday, depending on where we are. So with specific players, there's specific things that we'll be targeting. It's kind of, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it might be just sitting down, having a coffee, just having a recap of what was good and what wasn't very good last week. And then if something comes up, say it was the putting, short putting, I said, right, well, do you want to go and have a look on the green? Yeah, perfect. So we have a look at the green, I ask a load of questions. I ask so many questions during a week to them, just to get them to kind of, feed information back. Maybe go out on the course with them, just to make sure what we've talked about, they're implementing, speak to the caddy, speak to the coach. We have strong connections with the caddies, because obviously they can work as the psychologist out on the golf course. They're all in on it. And then, on the tournament days, we might, usually see them in the warm-up, see if they're okay. Some want me there in the warm, others don't. It depends. We might structure some practice sessions, some drills on different areas. Sometimes go out on the golf course, watch them for a bit if there's something that we're trying to keep an eye on. It's do a lot of mileage.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah,
I counted my steps at the US PGA a couple of years ago, and I think I did 23,000 steps, which I'd not calculated. That was on a practice day. I think that was on the Wednesday. So I don't know what kind of mileage that was, but it was just one of them weeks where everyone's on the golf course and wanted to be there and bloody everywhere. So it's we look at all of the areas, getting feedback from the coaches, and if there's something that you know, they want to implement going into this week, then we'll confirm with them. And, you know, the lads this week, I've done an audio for them in preparation for Abu Dhabi. So it's only like 20 minutes, but basically they've got a little audio that they can stick in the phone. You know, it just gets WhatsApped over to them, and it'll take them forward in time to Abu Dhabi, so they can mentally prepare playing for the golf course in certain situations that they come across and whatever the goals are. And, you know, we sometimes do a little bit of that for them, or, you know, little kind of hypnosis, but not really full on kind of hypnosis.
Is that personalised, is it, Lee?
The one for Abu Dhabi isn't. I did it quite open, but I do personalised ones as well. Yeah, I did clinical hypnotherapy training
Nice.
14 years ago. It's all as part of the self-development and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, and bits of it, you know, I use. You know, I don't teach people how to stop smoking or anything like that. You know, or get over phobias, but it's more about the performance side. Some of them are really, you know, effective. You know, so yeah, it's just loads of different angles of attack, really.
So, do you know you're a psychologist and you're a sports psychologist? Just another question here. Do they ever come to you with personal issues? Obviously, with a psychological background, or do you keep it specifically golf?
Oh no, you know, you get the personal stuff as well, but if it's kind of out of my jurisdiction and it's kind of more clinical, you know, it might be like kind of chronic anxiety or something like that, then we refer them on to someone who would be, you know, better qualified, a more clinical psychologist. But yeah, I mean, always got the shoulder to kind of cry on as well. So it's not just performance. You know, you've got your eye out for mental health. Absolutely. That's what, well, it comes in level one, doesn't it? Because it's like the emotional management. So emotional management is very encompassing of mental health. So that's one of the first things we look at.
Brilliant.
Do you ever find yourself being a bit of a marriage counsellor when the wives are doing their heads in?
No comment.
Brilliant, yeah.
That's
No comment. No comment. Fantastic, yeah. Quality stuff. Amazing.
Yeah, it's all good fun. Like I said, it's multi-dimensional, so it's never a dull moment, and I love it. I enjoy it, and especially, you know, it's not necessarily about them seeing them perform well all the time. You know, it's about seeing them progress and learn, you know, about themselves, how they can, you know, improve themselves as people. Because you look after the person before you look after the performer. You get the person in a good place, then you're more likely to perform. So yeah, it's good fun.
Fantastic work, mate. Yeah, no, brilliant. And again, thanks for your time and for giving this information. I'm pretty sure it's going to help a lot of our listeners out, whether the young pros who are just starting, because we have a lot of professionals listening, or whether it's the amateurs who are wanting to get to that level. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get some brilliant feedback at the information.
Are you still playing, Lee? You still having a knock?
I just got my handicap reinstated last year after the lockdown, because everyone was like chomping. We couldn't work, so couldn't work properly. I got it reinstated at 6 handicap, but then this new bloody world thing's come through. I'm 3.9. I'm like, you having a laugh? I play about 4 times a year.
Same with me, yeah. It's the first time back in a couple of years, and I'm off 5, and I just really struggled to play off 5, and I've gone down to 3 now, and I'm like, what's happened there?
Something's got to stabilise, hasn't it, with all that? But yeah, I play 4 or 5 times a year. Keep promising myself, you know, that I'm going to start playing. You know, a bit more, because I've got access to all the bloody best coaches in Europe, and it's just finding the time. I travel about 30 weeks of the year normally. Young family at home, you know, it's hard, but I still love it. I enjoy it, and there's certainly no ego involved when I go out and play, and it is pure enjoyment. And I do love playing competitively, and I think it's quite handy for me to keep, you know, playing in competition, because you know you understand a bit more. The beauty of golf is with the handicapping system, everyone feels the same bloody thing. You know, 20 handicapper feeling nervous down the stretch on an 18-hole medal is very, very, very similar to how these lads will feel on a Sunday afternoon in Abu Dhabi next week. You know, it's very similar. So yeah, try and play a little bit, but not enough.
Yeah. The reason I was asking is we're having a golf day. I was wondering if you wanted to invite you to it. I don't know when it is
depends.
yet.
Yeah, depends. I mean, keep in touch, absolutely. You know, give us a shout, let us know. Always a good excuse to get bat on ball, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, get over, get it. It'll only be somewhere local, so when you're home, if you're available, when we get it,
It'll be fun, be all.
Yeah, more than likely.
All right, okay.
So
yeah, I'll bring a hell of a 3-ball.
I'm sure you will.
Hold you to
that. Well, luckily, good luck with everything this week, and obviously with throughout the season, mate. I hope everyone stays safe over there with COVID and everything. And we really do appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. And like we said, we will keep in touch and keep an eye on the stable that you're dealing with. And good luck with everything.
Great stuff. That's been good fun, lads. Like I say, just anyone's interested, they could go to winninggolfmind.com, and all of my social medias are at winninggolfmind. Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. You know, I'm going to start posting some stuff on Instagram and Twitter, kind of, you know, hints and tips and all that kind of stuff, and a bit more social media as I start to ramp up the new website and all that kind of stuff. So
brilliant,
worth having a nosy.
We'll
often get the lads in some
we'll
situations
keep reposting it as well.
Top lads.
Perfectly. All right, you take care. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you very much, my mate.
Cheers, fellas. See you later.
Bye, Lee.
Bye.
You know.
Right here, so we topped it. We cold topped it. Okay. Better get up. Yeah. 8 iron. We shanked it. Oh, look at that line, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, boy, is he on the sink.